your blood. By your blood, I'm covered by your blood, your precious blood, your holy blood. As we go along in discussing Christian in the four areas: Christ as a foundation, his church, the Christian faith, and Christian, the individual follower or student of Christ. As we go along, we're going to first introduce each area for Christ, his church, the Christian faith, and Christian. And then as we go along, we're going to discuss all four concurrently together as is appropriate. So, first, let us look at Christ. If we take into consideration any subject relating to Judaism, the Judaic faith, Christianity, any subject from the Abrahamic faith tradition, we are called upon to look at the dynamic of the foundation to that faith, the foundation. And the foundation is simply God calls an individual through whom he establishes the foundation parameters and contours of the faith. And we are going to discuss Abraham, Isaac, Jacob all the way through. But we have to take into consideration that the faith is built on the commands and the promises of God. From the time, for example, from the time of Noah, God made a promise to Noah: I will not again destroy the earth with water, but fire. And it is presented in the rainbow, the real rainbow. We come over to Abraham. God called him and made promises to Abraham. He promised that he will, through him, establish a nation, or build a nation. But this nation will come from a son that God promised. Look at the sand of the seashore, the stars in the sky. So shall be your descendants, numerous. God told Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. So the Abrahamic covenant, the relationship between God and Abraham, the Abrahamic covenant has promises. The relationship between God and Abraham took the direction for the fulfillment of these promises. One of the single most important promise that God made to Abraham was in Genesis 22 verse 18, where he said that through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Paul discussed here in Galatians chapter 3 verse 16. Galatians chapter 3, that Christ is that descendant, singular, not plural, singular, your descendant, a particular descendant. Through this descendant, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Paul discussed here that this is indicative, this is pointing to, this is a promise of the Messiah. It is a messianic promise, the promise of salvation to the nations through this particular descendant of Abraham, a promise. The covenant relationship is built on promises. Our promises are the foundational basis for the relationship. God spoke to his servant and he said, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. He promised Noah, he promised Abraham, he promised Isaac, he promised Jacob. And when we get to Moses and the Israelites, these promises were now the foundation for a covenant relationship with God, through which God was now fulfilling the promises he made to Abraham. The New Testament Paul discussed that the promise came before the law. God promised Abraham before he gave the laws through Moses. So the law needs, or the law system, or the covenant between Israel, the Mosaic covenant, needs the Abrahamic promises and not vice versa. Meaning, the Mosaic covenant would be fulfilled. It is for a season, while the Abrahamic covenant, the Abrahamic promises, are not only to be fulfilled, but they are eternal. Father Abraham, the father of faith, and those who believe in God would be forever the descendants of Abraham. Abraham believed God and it was accredited to him. Abraham believed God and it was accredited to him as righteousness. So the Mosaic covenant was for a season, and it is built on Moses as the servant of God. Yet Moses spoke of a particular servant as himself, a particular leader in Israel like himself, in Deuteronomy chapter 18. God will raise up a prophet like unto me from among your brethren, and him you must hear. Jeremiah 31, a new covenant I will establish with the house of Israel. The book of Hebrew discussed that by saying a new covenant, it means the first is obsolete, been fulfilled, done away with, gone. Its season had passed. It served its time. So when Moses' covenant is done away with, it is so because the successor is here. This Moses' successor has come to Israel. And Peter discussed this in Acts chapter 3. In Acts chapter 3, that Moses said that God would raise up a prophet like unto me, and him you should hear. If you don't listen to him, your place will be taken away from the people of God. Peter is saying then that Moses' successor is here, so now a new covenant builder has come to Israel. A new person, a new individual through whom God is working. He worked through Noah. The Lord worked through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. He worked through Moses. He worked through David. And he's now working through the Messiah, the anointed one, the one Moses spoke about, the one that God promised in Genesis 22 verse 18. So for covenant relationship in the Bible, God uses an individual and asks the rest to come to him, come to this person and follow the teaching of this individual, the laws, the principles that this person has, so as to end confusion and to let the people know this is what I'm doing in the earth. I'm speaking through Noah. I'm speaking through Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I'm speaking through Moses. I'm speaking to the prophets. I'm speaking through David. That's my king. And I'm speaking through the Messiah, who is my last servant, who ends all in righteousness.